Imagine being a man fighting a deadly war against a nearly undefeatable enemy, but finding time to fall in love with your leader and friend's mother. Well, that's Kyle Reese for you. A part of him, at least. Because honestly, Kyle was someone who dedicated his life to a cause greater than himself. Sent back into the past, a time before his birth, to protect the mother of his leader from a vicious Terminator, Kyle did everything in his command to protect the said woman, aka Sarah Connor, and even inseminated her with John Connor, the said leader. It's all a big part of this so-called Predestination Paradox. But hey, fret not. In this video, we're going to explore the entire life of Kyle Reese from the various timelines of the Terminator franchise, including the comics. But before I begin, please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Those 2 small clicks from you help us tremendously in bringing you these marvelous videos. And now, let's begin.
Come with me if you want to live.
The Terminator. Needless to say, this is where Kyle Reese makes his first ever appearance. The man was born around or after the initial wars of 2003 to parents Mary Shea and Dennis Reese. He was among the few remaining humans who ultimately achieved victory over the machines. Reese managed to survive the horrific capture and execution of countless humans. But then again, he had to face a fate worse than death. He was forced to become a prisoner in one of Skynet's brutal concentration camps. In these camps, he and other survivors were forced into the gruesome task of loading countless dead bodies into furnaces to be burned. They were basically slaves who cleared the thousands of corpses that the machines exterminated like insects. Reese finally regained his freedom when a resistance group called TechCom, led by John Connor, liberated him and other prisoners from Skynet's hold. Ironically, Reese would later father John Connor during his mission to the past, making Connor his son as well as his closest friend. Following his liberation, Reese joined the Human Resistance Forces. He initially served in the 132nd Division under Justin Perry from 2021 to 2027, and actively participated in significant battles during the offensives in New Mexico and Oregon. After these campaigns, Reese transferred directly under John Connor's command within TechCom, where he also earned the rank of Sergeant. The Resistance gradually rallied their remaining numbers and resources and prepared for a major and presumably final assault aimed at ending Skynet's reign of terror. The decisive attack finally allowed the human forces to severely damage Skynet's defensive network. Breaking through Skynet's primary defenses, the Resistance made their way into its central complex with the goal of destroying the system entirely. Skynet, however, still had one final option left: its time displacement equipment. Using this advanced technology, Skynet sent one of its deadliest machines, a Terminator, back in time to Thursday, May 12, 1984. Its mission was clear and simple: to kill Sarah Connor, who was destined to become the mother of Resistance leader John Connor. By eliminating her, Skynet aimed to prevent John's birth and, consequently, the Resistance itself. But hey, humans are resilient. Maybe more resilient than cockroaches. And that's a compliment. Anyway, realizing the threat posed by Skynet's strategy, John Connor knew he had to respond quickly. He selected Reese, who willingly volunteered to travel back in time and protect Sarah. After Reese entered the time displacement device, the Resistance destroyed it to prevent any further interference. This action left only Reese and the Terminator stranded in 1984, but it also meant that Reese could not go back to his original timeline. He was stuck there in 84, but the interesting thing is, he wanted to remain there. I'll get to the why of it in just a bit. Upon arriving in the past without any weapons and unaware of the Terminator's disguised appearance, Reese swiftly acquired clothing and armed himself with a shotgun. He then set out immediately to find Sarah Connor. His initial encounter with the police occurred shortly after arriving, triggered when Reese stole pants from a homeless man in an alley. Although briefly confronted by an officer, Reese cleverly managed to disarm him and evade capture. From the officer, Reese confirmed he had arrived on the correct day, though the confused policeman could not specify the exact year. Reese escaped the authorities, hid in a department store, and quickly armed himself with a shotgun from a police cruiser. Using a phone book, he located 3 women named Sarah Connor. By now, the Terminator had killed 2 other Sarah Connors, including our Sarah Connor's friend and her boyfriend. Reese had managed to locate her by now and was tailing her, which is when she goes to a nightclub and calls the police. However, the Terminator was not far behind. His timely intervention at this nightclub allowed Reese to save the final living Sarah Connor from an attack by the Terminator. During their frantic escape, Reese explained to Sarah why the machine was after her, outlining the bleak future facing humanity and her critical role in preventing it through her son. After an intense chase, the Terminator pursued them in a stolen police car, ending only when it crashed. Reese and Sarah, however, were surrounded by the police and arrested. With the Terminator temporarily gone, criminal psychologist Dr. Peter Silberman interviewed Reese, dismissing his warnings about the future and Skynet as elaborate delusions, though noting the complexity of his claims regarding future technology. Even Sarah began doubting Reese momentarily, but the Terminator soon returned, assaulting the police station and killing nearly 17 officers. Reese quickly broke free and even managed to rescue Sarah from the deadly rampage. Life in a future ravaged by Skynet's relentless machines had left Reese physically and mentally toughened. His body bore multiple battle scars and burns from his harsh experiences of war and the strain of time travel. Reese was frequently haunted by nightmares reflecting his past. One terrifying dream had Reese successfully destroying an HK tank, only to become trapped in a burning vehicle during retreat. He awoke abruptly from the nightmare, immediately gripping his shotgun, shaken, but he regained composure quickly. In another vivid nightmare, Reese saw himself and his unit arriving at a resistance bunker, discovering survivors desperately hiding underground, starving and near death. Seeking a moment of peace, Reese stared at a treasured Polaroid picture of Sarah. However, this moment of peace and tranquility shattered like so many pieces of glass when a Terminator infiltrated the bunker, mercilessly killing everyone in sight. Reese charged toward the attacker, firing repeatedly, only to be knocked down by an explosion. Helplessly immobilized, he watched as the treasured photo of Sarah burned in front of him. In a deleted scene, Kyle Reese attempts to prevent Sarah from heading to Cyberdyne Systems. During this moment, he witnesses something completely new, the world before the devastating war against the machines. Reese describes this vision as a dream, mentioning the beauty of the trees, a stream, the flowers, and Sarah herself. Overwhelmed, Reese tearfully admits how painful it is because he was never meant to experience such beauty. Finally, he agrees with Sarah that they must attempt to change their future, their bleak and dark future. Though battle-hardened and tough from years of war, Reese deeply loves Sarah despite having only seen her in a photograph. His affection for Sarah comes from the legendary stories he has heard and the photo given to him by John Connor. Initially wary and distrustful of Reese, Sarah gradually begins to trust and eventually love him as he becomes her sole protector against the unstoppable Terminator. While evading their relentless pursuer, Reese and Sarah share a cozy night together, during which Sarah conceives her future son, John Connor, destined leader of the human resistance. However, Reese's life is tragically cut short during their final confrontation with the Terminator. A dramatic chase unfolds with the Terminator relentlessly pursuing them, first on a motorcycle and then commandeering a semi-tanker truck. During this pursuit, Reese is seriously wounded by gunfire. Believing they have finally defeated the Terminator after it is engulfed in flames from the exploded tanker, their relief turns to horror as the robotic enemy emerges from the flames, stripped to its metallic skeleton, and continues its pursuit. Reese and Sarah flee into an automated factory, later revealed as owned by Cyberdyne Systems. Reese activates machinery to hide their presence, while the Terminator violently breaks through barriers to find them. When Sarah accidentally triggers a piece of equipment, their hiding spot is compromised, and the Terminator quickly locates them. Reese urgently instructs Sarah to seek safety while he courageously confronts the cyborg with a metal rod. The Terminator knocks Reese down effortlessly. Taking advantage of the situation, Reese quickly lights a pipe bomb and forces it into the Terminator's abdomen. He throws himself away down nearby stairs as the bomb detonates. After removing shrapnel embedded in her leg, Sarah crawls over to Reese, finding him lifeless from his severe injuries. Sarah briefly mourns Reese before the damaged yet relentless Terminator's torso resumes its pursuit, forcing her to flee again despite her injured leg. Sarah cleverly lures the cyborg under a large hydraulic press, ironically the same machine she activated earlier, alerting the Terminator to their location. She successfully crushes the Terminator, finally stopping its relentless chase. Heartbroken, Sarah watches Reese's body being zipped into a bag and taken away. Although Reese dies unaware that Sarah carries their unborn son, the future commander of humanity, his bravery and sacrifice Reese gives Sarah the strength needed to prepare their child for the challenging future he must face. By fathering John Connor, Kyle unintentionally created a predestination paradox similar to the discovery of the Terminator's remains in the factory, which led to Skynet's creation. So that was Kyle Reese's story from the Terminator movie, but the franchise has like several timelines, and our guy appears in the T2 trilogy and T2 Saga comic books next. So let's explore a bit of these comics in brief before exploring Kyle Reese's role in each of them. Alternate timelines. Now, there's like 2 alternate timelines. The T2 trilogy has 3 stories within them, namely T2 Infiltrator, T2 Rising Storm, and T2 The Future War. On the other hand, the T2 Saga has 2 stories, namely Infinity and Revolution. Let's check these out one by one and what Kyle did in the stories. In T2 Infiltrator, John and Sarah Connor, now hiding in Paraguay, cross paths with a former agent named Dieter von Rosbach. Interestingly, Dieter's appearance later serves as the model for the iconic T-800 Terminator from the original movies. Soon after meeting Dieter, the Connors are pulled into another dangerous conflict against Skynet's advanced Terminator unit called Serena Burns. Serena is an I-950 infiltrator sent from the future who cleverly infiltrates Cyberdyne systems. Cyberdyne is now under control of the US government, with Serena at the helm of security operations. The story escalates further in the second story called T2 Rising Storm. Following Serena Burns' defeat and Skynet's apparent destruction, John returns to Paraguay alongside Dieter. Meanwhile, Sarah remains under the watchful protection of Jordan Dyson. Soon after, John and Dieter part ways to build the human resistance against Skynet from different angles. John travels to Boston, connecting with a group of MIT students he'd previously communicated with online. Dieter, using his personal wealth, establishes strategic networks and resources crucial for the Resistance's survival. However, peace doesn't last long. Serena's cloned counterpart awakens and immediately resumes the hunt for the Connors, ensuring Skynet's eventual rise to sentience. The tension steadily builds, ultimately reaching a peak in the harsh environment of Antarctica. In T2 The Future War, Judgment Day finally arrives in the spring of 2003. Skynet seizes control of the US military and immediately initiates an aggressive extermination of humanity. Sarah and John Connor, hiding in remote Alaska, swiftly alert their allies worldwide. These allies include global military forces, intelligence agencies, and scattered civilian survivors who band together against the machines. Complicating matters, eco-terrorists known as Luddites emerge. Aligned with Skynet, they begin capturing human survivors, placing them into concentration camps and employing deadly biological weapons. The Luddites believe human extinction is necessary for the Earth's survival. Despite these extreme challenges, the Resistance ultimately gains the upper hand. Skynet, facing defeat, desperately resorts to time travel. It attempts to assassinate Sarah Connor in the past, thereby ensuring its future existence and preventing the human rebellion. Kyle's role. Kyle Reese plays a significant role throughout these events. Kyle and his mother, Mary Shea, are captured by Luddite Patrol A-36 under Sam Marshall, AS-783-490. They're delivered to the Sentry work camp, forced into slave labor. 3 years later, Dennis Reese and John Connor launch an assault to liberate the camp. During this battle, a Terminator tragically kills Mary and her husband. Amidst the chaos, John Connor famously emerges from the smoke, rescuing Kyle with the iconic line, "Come with me if you want to live." T2 Saga, Infinity and Revolution. T2 Infinity picks up in 2033, after the Resistance overruns Skynet's final surface facility. Although the Resistance has claimed victory, Skynet's core remains intact. Skynet identifies anomalies in the primary timeline while analyzing alternative scenarios. Discovering that the timeline's imbalance originates from a specific fourth path, Skynet deploys the advanced T-Infinity Terminator to correct the anomaly. Back in 2009, after losing Kate Brewster a year prior, John Connor departs Crystal Peak. Reflecting on humanity's defeat, John travels to Los Angeles to rally remaining Resistance fighters. During his initial battle against Terminators and HK aerial units, he meets Uncle Bob, a mysterious figure who saves his life. Uncle Bob is soon revealed to be a Terminator sent back to ensure John fulfills his role as humanity's leader. At a subway hideout, John and Uncle Bob connect with Resistance fighters, assembling a communication transmitter. The T-Infinity attacks, forcing forcing Uncle Bob into combat to protect John. In an attempt to neutralize the powerful T-Infinity, Uncle Bob destroys a building using an X-90 phase plasma rifle, though the Terminator survives and relocates nearby. John, Uncle Bob, and Resistance members then head to the abandoned radio station, Epiphany. To safely broadcast their message, they must first dismantle a nearby HK landing platform. Despite successfully completing their mission, 3 fighters perish. Upon their return, other Resistance fighters uncover Uncle Bob's true identity as a Terminator, leading them to doubt John Connor's intentions. This revelation triggers distrust and hostility among the group, who consider killing John. Uncle Bob intervenes, convincing the fighters of John's legitimacy by recounting his earlier encounters with Terminators and his vital role in the mission's success. During this critical juncture, Marine Sergeant Tara Holden responds to their broadcast, joining forces with them. Together, they plan an assault on a Skynet-controlled weapons factory in Denver. Upon entering the facility, they again face the formidable T-Infinity, which ultimately defeats Uncle Bob. John Connor, feeling isolated and enraged, impulsively confronts the T-Infinity, which inexplicably retreats without fighting back. When Skynet triggers factory alarms, the team quickly attempts to flee. Disheartened and nearly suicidal, John initially refuses to leave, but eventually reclaims his determination. He saves Tara and other Resistance fighters using a powerful Centurion unit to destroy surrounding HK tanks. Returning to the Epiphany station, the Resistance realizes their signal has reached countless survivors. Skynet assesses that the T-Infinity successfully eliminated 2 of the timeline's anomalies, Uncle Bob and the TX. However, 2 more critical targets remain. Skynet recalls the T-Infinity to prepare for its next mission, targeting Tara Connor in 2015. In T2 Revolution, Skynet dispatches the T-Infinity to 2015 to assassinate Tara Connor. John Connor confronts and disables the T-Infinity using an EMP pulse gun. Attempting to destroy it further, John inadvertently triggers a malfunction, transporting both himself and the Terminator back to 1996, arriving separately in New Orleans and Alabama. Alarmed, Skynet dispatches the Dire Wolf, a powerful machine, to eliminate the missing T-Infinity in 2015. Meanwhile, in 1996, the young John Connor is ambushed by T-850 Terminators on his way to school. His older self, mistaken for a protective Terminator, saves him. Concurrently, the malfunctioned T-Infinity arrives in Birmingham, Alabama, mistakenly targeting Sarah Connor as its new primary objective. Back in 2015, the Dire Wolf searches for T-Infinity, clashing with both Resistance fighters and Skynet's own Terminators due to recognition errors. In 1996, Sarah narrowly escapes the T-Infinity, only to encounter a group of T-850s, which the T-Infinity destroys upon arrival. Sarah reunites with both Johns, fleeing to their woodland hideout. The Dire Wolf eventually travels back to 1996 after a confrontation with Kyle Reese. Upon arriving, it easily destroys the T-Infinity, threatening the Connors. Kyle Reese tracks the Dire Wolf, assisting John in finally destroying it. They salvage vital data from the defeated T-Infinity. In 2015, the Resistance targets Skynet's regional servers and nuclear arsenal in Buffalo, New York. Utilizing the salvaged data, John and Kyle transport themselves and the T-Infinity's remains to this critical location. The information reveals Skynet's central hub location in Nebraska. The Resistance promptly launches a nuclear strike on the hub, permanently defeating Skynet. By 2032, humanity has largely rebuilt itself, enjoying a peaceful and normal existence similar to life before the war. Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles timeline. In the timeline of Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, Kyle Reese was born in 2002. Kyle spent his early years living a relatively ordinary life alongside his older brother Derek, until the catastrophic events of Judgment Day occurred on Holy Thursday, April 21st, 2011. That day, Kyle and Derek were playing ball in their backyard when they witnessed nuclear missiles launching. Reacting quickly, Derek took Kyle to an underground shelter to survive the counterstrike. To survive in this harsh new reality, Derek and Kyle hunted for food, killing a deer at one point. Kyle, deeply upset by the animal's death, persuaded Derek to bury it, reflecting Kyle's gentle nature despite their desperate circumstances. By 2015, Kyle found himself imprisoned alongside John Connor at Sentry Work Camp. The harsh conditions continued until their escape in 2021. Afterward, Kyle quickly rose through the ranks in the Resistance, gaining a reputation for bravery and leadership. As a corporal, Kyle notably carried the severely wounded Martin Bedell on his back to a medical station after an intense battle against Skynet's formidable weapon known as Ogre. In 2027, John Connor sent Kyle Reese back in time to 1984 to protect Sarah Connor, ensuring both John's future existence and Sarah's safety. Sadly, Kyle died during this mission. Afterward, he was laid to rest in a soldier's graveyard marked only by a headstone inscribed with the year 1984. Later, Derek Reese was sent back to 2007 by the Resistance to assist in other temporal operations, tasked with protecting a teenage John Connor. In one notable event, Sarah Connor wakes up in a hospital after being shot. She sees an apparition of Kyle Reese, who encourages her to escape quickly. Using his guidance, she fakes her escape through a window. When the officer guarding her hears the noise and investigates, Sarah overpowers him and flees, despite her visible injuries. Sarah then contacts Derek, instructing him to dispose of the vehicle she used to reach their base, remove any other potential evidence, and secure the base itself. Sarah abducts Dr. Felicia Burnett from the hospital parking lot and takes her to a motel. She asks Felicia to remove the bullet from her wound. Initially hesitant, Sarah becomes more open after her hallucination of Kyle suggests trusting Felicia. Sarah describes her situation vaguely, mentioning a dangerous man chasing her, and references her son's father. Felicia mistakenly assumes Sarah is escaping domestic abuse and decides to help. During the first surgery attempt, they discover the bullet is dangerously close to an artery, forcing Felicia to stop. If she hits the artery, Sarah would have only minutes to live. While unconscious, Sarah again sees Kyle, causing her to cry out his name. When asked by Felicia who Reese was, Sarah honestly replies that he was John's deceased father. Felicia insists they need professional medical facilities for another surgery attempt. With further reassurance from Kyle's vision, Sarah agrees. Together, they sneak into a morgue using a gurney from an ambulance. Felicia gathers surgical instruments, including an endoscopic device to carefully remove the bullet without damaging the artery. While Felicia prepares, Sarah updates Derek about her critical condition. Sarah has a vivid hallucination where Kyle guides her through a barren wasteland to a buried, charred tree. Kyle shares a memory of Skynet burning an orchard, mentioning it smelled like apple pie. Kyle describes how he and Derek used this tree as a marker, leaving messages for each other. Sarah, skeptical of her vision, tells Kyle none of it is real, merely her imagination. Undeterred, Kyle digs beneath the tree, uncovering a box containing the famous photo of Sarah he carried back to 1984. He reiterates his profound love for her, urging Sarah to trust Felicia and assuring her that he'll always be there to watch over her. When Sarah regains consciousness, Derek is by her side, briefly mistaken by Sarah for Kyle. Felicia, overhearing this exchange, notes Derek is alive, causing her to question the truth of Sarah's earlier story. Sarah simply responds that she was shot, emphasizing the harsh reality of her situation. In an alternate timeline depicted later in the series, John Connor travels forward with Catherine Weaver to a future where he never became the leader of the Resistance, having been absent for 2 decades. Immediately upon arriving, John encounters Kyle, Derek, and Allison Young. However, none recognize him, as his prolonged absence erased his influence on this future. Throughout Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles, Kyle's relationship with his older brother Derek Reese remains significant. Derek assumed the role of guardian after Judgment Day left them orphaned, Derek at 15 and Kyle at 8. Derek single-handedly raised Kyle in a brutal post-apocalyptic world until Kyle's capture at age 12. The brothers remained separated until Kyle's escape 6 years later alongside John Connor. Following their reunion, Derek served as Kyle's commanding officer, leading the resistance unit known as the Four Horsemen. Derek consistently showed deep concern for Kyle, often calling out for him in moments of distress. Derek nearly became suicidal when he believed Kyle was missing, illustrated by his reckless confrontation with a Series 888 Terminator armed only with a handgun. These actions reveal Derek as a deeply protective, devoted older brother, driven by his profound care and sense of responsibility towards Kyle.
You see that red? It stands for blood. It's a symbol of the resistance.
Terminator Salvation timeline. In the timeline of Terminator Salvation, Kyle Reese is one of the primary targets for Skynet in the year 2018. At just 16 years old, Kyle becomes a crucial figure in humanity's ongoing struggle against the machines. John Connor, fully aware of Kyle's importance to the future, urgently seeks him out to provide protection. During the chaos of post-Judgment Day Los Angeles, Kyle forms a close bond with Star, a young mute girl. Their communication relies heavily on hand signals, allowing them to navigate navigate dangerous situations silently and effectively. Their partnership grows strong, forged through mutual trust and cooperation. Kyle's life takes a significant turn shortly after the awakening of Marcus Wright. To know more about Marcus Wright and how he went from an ex-con to the savior of mankind, you may want to check out our video on his entire life in the Terminator franchise, including the comic books. Anyway, Marcus, who initially appears lost and confused, is rescued by Kyle from a deadly encounter with a Series 600 Terminator. Kyle successfully destroys the machine outside an abandoned toy company. Afterward, Kyle and Marcus develop a partnership, with Marcus sharing valuable survival skills and tactics that strengthen Kyle's ability to survive in the hostile environment. Although Kyle isn't officially part of the Resistance at this point, considering himself and Star the Los Angeles branch, he quickly demonstrates his capability and courage. According to General Ashdown, Kyle remains a civilian, but his actions and mindset clearly align with the Resistance's goals and ideals. Kyle, Star, and Marcus soon set out on a journey in a Jeep, determined to find John Connor. Their journey is disrupted by a brief encounter with a Skynet probe that scans Kyle's face, reinforcing Skynet's intense focus on him. Seeking rest, they stop at an apparently abandoned desert 7-Eleven. Here, they unexpectedly encounter a group of survivors led by Virginia. Initially welcomed with food and supplies, their peaceful moment quickly shatters when a massive Skynet harvester attacks them. Marcus temporarily stuns the giant machine, but Kyle plays a crucial role in their subsequent escape attempt. From the back of a tow truck, Kyle courageously tries to neutralize the pursuing Moto Terminators. Despite his efforts, the attempt is unsuccessful. Kyle and Star are ultimately captured by Skynet, loaded onto a transport, and taken to Skynet control. Throughout the transport, Kyle maintains morale among his fellow prisoners, constantly searching for any potential weapon to aid in their escape. Upon arrival at Skynet Central, Kyle is immediately identified by Skynet and separated from the other captives. He is taken directly to an execution chamber, closely guarded by a Series 600 Terminator. Demonstrating quick thinking and bravery, Kyle manages to evade and outsmart the machine, escaping from its grasp. He quickly reunites with Star, his trusted companion, and soon after, finally meets John Connor for the first time. Their introduction is short-lived as they're suddenly attacked by a new and deadly enemy, the T-Rip, a prototype Series 800 Terminator specifically sent to eliminate Connor. Kyle and John narrowly escape this initial encounter, finding temporary safety within Skynet's Terminator factory. Within the factory, Kyle collaborates closely with Connor to build a powerful bomb designed to obliterate the factory and its relentless robotic army. Kyle's bravery and resourcefulness once again prove critical. He successfully contributes to the mission, and the Resistance soon rescues him alongside John Connor and the rest of their squad. Back at a Resistance outpost, Kyle watches alongside others as John Connor, severely wounded during the battle, lies gravely injured. John symbolically passes his jacket to Kyle, signifying Kyle's importance to the Resistance's future. Marcus Wright, who had developed a deep connection with both Kyle and John, chooses to sacrifice himself, donating his heart to John to save his life. Following the transplant surgery, Kyle honors Marcus's sacrifice by helping bury his body respectfully. During this somber moment, Kyle discovers something significant in the jacket John gave him, a photograph of Sarah Connor. This photo holds deep emotional and historical importance, marking Kyle's first visual introduction to the woman he would eventually travel back in time to protect.
People know how to do. Kill what you don't understand.
Terminator Genesis timeline. Kyle Reese was born after Judgment Day, and right from his birth, he entered a harsh world already devastated by nuclear destruction and machine dominance. During his early childhood, Kyle's parents carefully guided him through this dangerous environment, teaching him essential survival skills. They shared stories about life before the catastrophe, keeping a sense of humanity alive in their son. Tragically, Kyle's parents were eventually killed, leaving him alone in a merciless, Skynet-controlled world. Much of Kyle's early life involved hiding from Skynet's relentless hunter-killer machines. During one frightening encounter, an infiltrator cornered Kyle in the sewers, nearly capturing him. Just as hope seemed lost, John Connor appeared and destroyed the Terminator, saving Kyle's life. Kyle vividly recalled this moment as the first time he learned that a Terminator could be destroyed, significantly shaping his belief and determination to fight against Skynet. Inspired by John Connor's heroics, Kyle joined TechCom, a crucial branch of the human resistance under John's leadership. Kyle quickly became not just a soldier, but a close friend and trusted ally to John. During their time together, John gave Kyle a cherished photograph of his mother, Sarah Connor, reinforcing Kyle's connection to John and humanity's struggle for survival. The two even attempted to create their own distilled alcohol, though their efforts humorously ended with an accidental explosion. As the war against Skynet intensified, John approached Kyle with a critical mission known as Operation Chrono. Kyle was asked to join John's force in attacking a highly strategic Skynet prison camp. This particular camp was more crucial than any other, as it contained Skynet's ultimate weapon, a last resort measure in case the machines were defeated. John openly admitted that if there had been another option, he would not have chosen Kyle for this dangerous task. After the successful destruction of Skynet, the Resistance uncovered Skynet's final contingency plan, sending a Terminator back in time to assassinate Sarah Connor, thus preventing John's birth. Numerous brave soldiers volunteered to undertake the perilous journey to protect Sarah, but Kyle was ultimately selected due to his exceptional bravery and unwavering loyalty. Before Kyle's departure, he questioned John on how he knew so much about everything. John cryptically responded that he had cheated. However, as Kyle prepared to leave, a shocking betrayal occurred. Skynet infiltrated the Resistance, disguised as TechCom soldier Alex, and attacked John Connor from behind. Due to this event, Kyle suddenly gained memories from an altered timeline. Upon arriving in Los Angeles in 1984, Kyle immediately faced unexpected danger when a T-1000 Terminator, disguised as a police officer, pursued him. Kyle encountered Officer O'Brien and his partner during this confrontation, managing to save O'Brien after his partner was killed by the T-1000. Kyle was astonished when Sarah Connor unexpectedly appeared to rescue them both, reversing the role he initially anticipated. Kyle's confusion increased upon meeting Pops, a reprogrammed Model 101 Terminator who acted as Sarah's guardian. Initially hostile and suspicious, Kyle attacked Pops, but was quickly subdued. Once he recovered, Pops and Sarah explained the significant alterations to the timeline, resulting from an assassination attempt on Sarah when she was just 9 years old. They revealed that they had been preparing for Kyle's arrival for over a decade. The T-1000 tracked them down again, leading to a fierce confrontation in an abandoned warehouse. Pops was temporarily incapacitated when impaled by a pole, leaving Kyle and Sarah to face the T-1000 alone. After a tense battle, Sarah cleverly trapped the T-1000 in an acid bath. Despite sustaining severe damage, the T-1000 nearly killed Sarah until Pops freed himself, forcing the T-1000 fully into the acid, destroying it completely. However, Pops suffered extensive damage to his outer skin in the process. Following their victory, Pops and Sarah destroyed the remains of a T-800 to prevent Skynet from reverse engineering its technology. They then revealed their plan to Kyle, using their self-constructed time displacement equipment to travel forward to 1997, aiming to destroy Skynet before it could cause Judgment Day. However, Pops could not accompany them due to his damaged skin, choosing instead to take the long way and meet them in the future. During preparations, Kyle vividly remembered the name Genesis from his altered timeline memories, convincing Sarah and Pops that traveling to 2017 was necessary to prevent Skynet's emergence. Upon arrival in 2017, Sarah and Kyle materialized unexpectedly in traffic above Pops' intended interception point. Immediately arrested, they learned about Genesis, an app Kyle recognized from his alternate timeline memories as Skynet's new form. John Connor suddenly appeared, seemingly rescuing them, and accidentally revealed Kyle's future fatherhood. Their reunion turned disastrous when Pops revealed that John had become a T-3000 Terminator, transformed by the alternate timeline Skynet Alex. Barely escaping John's attack, Sarah, Kyle, and Pops regrouped at a safe house to plan an assault on the Genesis program. Amid tension, Kyle confronted Sarah about withholding information regarding John's parentage. Sarah explained John's manipulations, aiming to ensure his own existence, and confessed her fear of losing Kyle again. Despite these complexities, Kyle admitted his love for Sarah. John tracked them again, forcing another desperate escape using a stolen school bus. After surviving another attack, they were again arrested, but received unexpected help from Detective O'Brien, who remembered their earlier encounter in 1984. During their escape, Sarah encountered the young Kyle Reese, urging him to flee to safety. The climax occurred at Cyberdyne's facility, where John nearly killed Sarah and Kyle before Pops trapped him in an electromagnetic field generated by prototype time displacement equipment. Kyle and Sarah set explosives throughout the building as Pops battled John. At the last moment, Pops was thrown into mimetic polyalloy, which ultimately upgraded him, and John was destroyed by the electromagnetic field. Kyle and Sarah barely survived the explosion, trapped momentarily in a bunker until Pops rescued them. The trio then visited young Kyle Reese, completing the older Kyle's memory. Sarah, embracing her freedom to choose her future, shared a meaningful kiss with Kyle, reaffirming their bond. They drove off together, united in their ongoing fight against Skynet. In the altered Genesis timeline, young Kyle Reese received the Genesis app as a birthday gift. Following a fight at a multiplex cinema, Kyle's parents attempted to teach him a lesson by showing him a jail cell, leading to his fingerprints being registered. Later, after his older self's arrest due to incidents on the Golden Gate Bridge, the police station called young Kyle and his parents to identify the older Kyle due to matching fingerprints. Though the young Kyle did not recognize his future self, he noted the resemblance to his father. When a T-3000 Terminator attacked the police station, Sarah Connor assisted the Reese family's evacuation, encouraging young Kyle to bravely escape. After Cyberdyne's destruction, the older Kyle visited his younger self, instructing him to remember a critical message needed to defeat Skynet permanently. This final interaction highlighted Kyle Reese's integral role in humanity's enduring battle against Skynet, across multiple timelines and realities. That's all in this one, folks. You may want to check out our other videos on the Terminator franchise characters and their entire lives. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.